Jordan Leavitt was supposed to fight Victor Martinez, but let me tell you why I am super pumped for Trey Ogden to not only get his UFC debut this weekend, but for him to get it against Jordan Leavitt is pretty phenomenal. And here's why. Trey Ogden is just coming off I think it was in November. Yeah, in November, he actually fought for the Fury FC lightweight title and ended up winning it. And the big thing about that fight was it was billed as the wrestler versus the grappler. And, he was the grappler taking on the wrestler and JJ. And the best part about that is his stand-up game was miles apart. In fact, it turned into a much bigger issue than just the grappler versus wrestler fight because let's be real. Trey's footwork was phenomenal. His jab was on point. His body work was there, and his leg kicks were basically helping him set up whatever he wanted. And there were moments in that fight where you can see him exude confidence, and that's a title fight. Let's remember that. And then slowly but surely started finding the timing to his strikes with that incorporating, level changes and got a couple good takedowns right before landing that arm triangle. And the best part about that arm triangle that won him the fight was look at the camera angle. He's basically up against the corner in his own corner with Jason Witt and James Krause just feeding him advice right into his ear. James Krause, it's so fun watching him coach and the personality that he's becoming in the MMA community is so great. Talk about trying to help people, help fighters. The guy's doing everything the right way, and you got to give him credit for that. But the big thing for me is you can tell in the moment his hands are moving like he was trying to lock up that arm triangle himself, and then you can tell because you can't see his face. He moves his attention the moment he can kind of see, Ogden lock it in. He's now looking at the screen because he thinks it's so tight that he's just waiting for him to go out, and then he's yelling like he's out, and then he's jumping the fence. Ogden realizes he just won the Fury FC title, so a lot of feel-good moments coming into the year for Trey, and now he gets a short notice debut against Jordan Leavitt. So right now, we're about to watch what is hopefully, if this fight could just be a grappler-only fight, I wouldn't be upset. And I know a lot of UFC fans would be, but I just wouldn't be. And the reason why is I think this is going to be a matchup of Trey Ogden's athleticism versus Jordan Leavitt's just, smarts and durability. I think the one thing you can see from Jordan Leavitt, even in that Matt Sales fight, Matt Sales was very much in the game. And I think as a wrestler and grappler, he held his own for a lot of that time, but the best thing about watching grapplers, especially in MMA when other things can happen, is you can see how much they can think ahead. And that's what I love about Jordan Leavitt. He does not look the most athletic, and he is not putting together the best hand combinations. In fact, he seems to like to use his legs more. There's a lot of leg kicks. He actually loves the left high kick to set up some of his knockouts, but let's be real. The guy's never been knocked out himself. He does have a loss in a decision against a guy who is a very good grappler, especially as the fight went on. So that's where, for me, it's like how far ahead can Jordan stay in the fight? In the Matt Sales fight, it's just he was able to read Matt so well. And even in the moments where he was getting sprawled, he held onto the neck. He kept finding ways to lock up different positions and get to better areas to lock up more submissions. But the way he ended it was beautiful. That inverted triangle, you can actually tell in the first round. I think there's a moment where he tries to throw up his legs to lock it up, and he doesn't get it. It's actually quite far. But in the second round, think about how quickly he pulled that off. You have to realize, not a lot of people can do that to get their legs around your neck that quickly, technique-wise. The arm was in the perfect spot, the leg was in the head and the arm were in the perfect spot, and for how quickly he pulled that off blew my mind. And the best part is you can see him trying to get position, and Matt just ends up tapping anyway. He knew that fight was over, and they had a great moment after that fight. It was such a great fight for Jordan, I think, just to show off some of the true MMA skill, because again, he's not going to look like the greatest athlete, but the dude is a phenomenal ground fighter to watch. He really is, and still my favorite Tapology picture, I would say, with him looking up at the camera as he locks up an armbar. And can we give a big shout out to my man, Chris Curtis? Not only was he one of the biggest underdogs back-to-back that, I called, and I feel like I have a connection with him because of that, faith all day, but my word, is this guy just such an amazing aspect of this community. Let alone paying his dues, almost retiring, now coming to the UFC and having his own story. But this guy in Jordan Leavitt's corner during that Matt Sales fight gave the best advice. I mean, I'm watching this guy from the outside looking in just come onto the scene in such a big way. And as people that have been around the fight game for so long, it's just so amazing to see a guy like that get his dues. And I swear he's going to become one of my favorite fighters when it's all said and done. He really is a phenomenal person and a phenomenal fighter to just, pay attention to and listen to and keep track of. So I'm excited to watch that career unfold. But with that said, pupil Jordan Leavitt. Now where do we see this fight? Like, that's where we're gonna go with next. I think Leavitt should be about a -140 favorite, but I also think this fight's kind of a pick'em. I mentioned it earlier, where it's basically athleticism versus durability and smarts. And to be quite honest, when you look at Jordan's only loss, it kind of falls under the same area, right? The more athletic fighter who does have the ability to kind of chain things together and monitor his opponent, and that's where you get those grappling chess matches where it's just such a beautiful back and forth, right? Some really good scrambles, things like that. And that's what I'm looking to see in this fight. I think it's a very tough fight to call. I think that both guys, if they nullify the ground game, it's going to be Ogden on the feet for sure, but I think that there's going to be opportunities to just showcase which guy's the better grappler, and I think that's going to be the most fun part about it. So you might not need to lay anything. As for a pick, we'll see where I go with this. Right now, I'm just really trying to figure out which way to go, but I do like Leavitt as the favorite at -140, but again, I did say it should be a potential pick'em. And look at that. Trey Ogden, it's basically a flip, right? -135 opener, now about a -130. And you can tell they didn't want to give Jordan plus money. They nailed him at +105, but now he's still a +100 in some areas coming down, but then he moved up to a +110 as well. So by the looks of it, that line could very much close into both guys being, just even money, about maybe -110, -115. But it's all said and done. But I think Jordan deserves a bit more credit than that. But again, that line just suggests how close this fight is. And I'm going to be honest, where if you're a grappling fan, just sit back and enjoy. Maybe not spend too much of your money to increase the excitement. That's my personal advice. Let's move on to that next fight, shall we?